Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Circle. Today we'll be talking about another Road to One Dan game. So, it's easy content. It's the holiday season, so I'm going to try and upload some videos before I'm away from my computer and I can't upload anymore. So, that's going to be a lot of fun. Today we have a 13Q game. I'm slowly getting stronger, just edging into the single digit Q level. And today I'll be playing against a 12Q. And I think what you'll notice from this game is that I have entered my crackhead era. So here in this game, I think I'm trying way too hard, and you'll see what I mean. In any case, this small enclosure, once again, is very traditional for the time. This is pointing towards the bottom of the board. And so that's kind of where it's trying to develop. Normally, you would consider enclosing in this direction because then it would face this stone. But here it faces the other stone. It's not necessarily a mistake, but by pre AI era opening theory, this is not exactly the best way to play. So that means that the follow up is naturally over here, something like this. But okay, I approach on this side. And then sometimes you'll find players who try to make this kind of, who try to defend the corner like this. And here I actually play quite well. In fact, a little bit, perhaps not ahead of my time because it wasn't as intentional, but in a way that you could play. So white attaches on top here, and a sequence like this would be a little bit more normal. But instead, I come in this way. You could expect that white responds and you come back out or something like that. Or maybe white blocks over here and then maybe make these exchanges. So all this kind of, it makes a little bit of sense. And then white plays over here. And then I guess playing for a base here would make more sense. But then I play this move. It leaves these stones open to attack right here. So that's something that black should be a little bit aware about. But anyway, and then here, this is a really big mistake. Not really big, but it's not great because it's very close to this area. So these two stones together make a very strong corner. And so here, black is playing just a little bit too closely. Here, I return to these stones, which were a little bit under attack. And then here, I think this is a little bit wrong direction. I think it'd be better for black to come from over here, because then white stones are a little bit under pressure. You want to choose the direction where white has the least amount of comfort in terms of living. Whereas when black comes from the other direction, pushes white over here, then suddenly black's eye space feels a little bit cramped over here. The most normal response would be something like this. And here you see the beginning of the crackheadness. So here I'm trying to attack white, but when you're attacking like this, you're saying, hey, you're too thin, you have too many weaknesses, you can't defend everything. But here, it's, white just played two stones on the third line. That's a reasonable thing that you might be able to play. So white is able to connect on up, and here I just play a very simple mistake and get captured, but instead I should have tried to connect underneath this way. White will probably play this double hane, and then you can consider capturing this way, something like this. But then, or rather, you can also try something like this. White will maybe play some Ataris and then play here to make shape. And then maybe you can try and connect underneath here so that you have these stones that are floating. But the issue is that because of this, there's a little bit of an opening here for white at A. So the point is that black overplayed a little bit, and so it's not so easy to recover the position. But okay, we can continue from here. I play this cut, I lose the stones, and then I play this cut again, and here, and then this shape is one that you should really take care of. So this is one you might see in a lot of your games, and the issue with this is that there's a peep over here. So this is very similar to if black had played this descent. This peep here still exists. So not only does it point at A, but it also threatens to cut at C as well. Naturally, if this happens in an actual game, so if white plays here and then this cut, it's maybe not such a big idea or such a big problem because you can just capture it. But yeah, so that's basically the issue. You would much rather just play over here because then that weakness is covered up. So, okay, white plays in this direction, and then this shoulder hit is a bit weird. It's not clear what black is going to do with this move after this exchange, but okay, so this is something that black plays, and then over here, and then I think descending here to the third line was an interesting idea, but the stones are a little bit short on liberties. You have this stone here on the vital point. Black only has 3 liberties, so not so great. And it would be really great now. So white doesn't exploit black's issues by playing on top here. So if by going after this stone, black can take a chance to recover. I've mentioned in previous episodes that when you're capturing stones, you want to think about the strategic value of those stones first. It's normally not heavy enough unless you have 4 or 5 stones to really go after it. Here, black responds, and black doesn't really have to hold on to this. And that's kind of here as well. Like, I wonder if this is a misclick, because if you just play over here, that's quelling the agi of the stone way better. So agi, once again, means taste, or for those of you who've been following it, or following my games, this kind of stuff. Agi means taste, and that has to do with the weaknesses that are left over after playing. So when you play this way, then you go for this broken shape here, which is not necessarily what you're aiming for. So, okay, I mean, this is what happens exactly in the game. And then the reason why this is my crackhead phase is because I'm trying to surround white directly like this and like really hold on tight. And you might remember from previous episodes as well that you don't want to squeeze your opponent and strangle them to death. You want to instead try and let them, keep a little bit of distance, because otherwise you run into trouble. So here already the shape is a little bit difficult for black to recover. White, of course, is going for the weaknesses. Okay, they can go for the Atari, and I mean, this doesn't even connect. You can just take with the ladder, and which is what I do. If white connects over here, yeah, that makes a lot more sense, because now white is safely out, and black needs to recover the shape a little bit, and now they have Sente, and now they can go do something else. But yeah, so the fighting continues, and then here, I'm right that these stones are a little bit under attack, and I try and dig in by playing over here, but instead, it's best to just jump out, because you don't want to try and live until you absolutely have to. So jumping into the center means that you have a lot of liberties. You might remember Godave's lungs, skeleton, space. And when we're jumping like this, we're trying to get into space. Not out into the outer world space, but at least where there are more open stones. So, okay, I play over here, which is a bit weird, but it's fine. And here, actually, white actually goes for the surround. It's not clear to me if white is strong enough, but the idea is that if black tries to exit like this, they won't be able to, and then they have to live with the inside stone here. So, yeah, this is important, because otherwise black will, or white rather, will be too thin. You can imagine pushing here and maybe taking, some cut here, has to connect. It doesn't seem to be quite so bad. I mean, you can imagine something like this. So this cut doesn't work. So yeah, so maybe black will be able to make it out. So white is just a little bit thin, so that white plays this move. That's really good. I can applaud them for that. And here I'm trying to poke at the shape, but if black is dead on the inside, then there's really not a lot to worry about. I suppose that maybe white can play something like this, jumping this group out, and then it's a question of what happens with this cut. Black can make it out easily, and here as well, this isn't ideal. So I'd say that this looks like the wrong direction you really want to play over here. And then, black will then have to live right away, but then we'll see what happens instead. So white tries to attack this stone, and of course black could just connect here. Here I try and stand out, which is awkward. But okay, I can capture the stone. But the issue is that by capturing this way, you give a lot of forcing moves to your opponent, which, you'd rather not. So, okay, and of course I should come back here, which isn't what I do. And this surrounding is weird. So, once again, you don't want to squeeze. This is squeezing your opponent, where here, it should be that white is strong enough to actually surround, but it makes everything a little bit more difficult. You don't need to make your life difficult. Don't try so hard. Just take a step back and let things happen the way how they're going to happen. So, okay, we get this, and then, black is surrounded, and so this actually kills. It would be really great, though, if white just plays one more move here just to really solidify and to really kill black. Because if black is dead, then white is way ahead, and it doesn't matter. If black tries to drag the stone out, then white can maybe surround like this. I mean, yeah, it's not so easy, I guess. Anyway, also the nice thing is that white has these stones over here to use with the fighting as well. They can push black in this direction. But anyway, so black realizes that they're dead, and this cut here isn't enough to actually cut through. We need something more like this. But even then, I don't think that black will be able to do it because white will have more liberties. So here I'm struggling and nothing is working. I think like even, yeah, okay, that's fine. Because actually this can't connect anything. So that's actually already an eye, a second eye, so white's even alive. I play here. What happens? And white responds. This is all okay. I guess I wouldn't make this Atari because it's not necessary. This is kind of weird. White's trying to make a second eye, even though white already has another eye over here, so white's trying too hard. And that's reducing territory. But not just reducing territory, but eye space as well. White connects underneath here. White has to be a little bit careful of this ko here. So white shouldn't do that. White should connect solidly here. So you can see that there's all this fighting, but yeah, white's able to live. There's all this fighting, but the fighting is very roughshod. So both players don't have a really great idea about what they're trying to achieve. And also still the shapes that they play are quite weak. Generally in this game, white is playing stronger shape than black, which is why black is a little bit behind. But yeah, so here I'm trying to make expand this territory here. Was this even necessary to connect? Seems okay, I guess. And here, white tries to come inside, but that doesn't really work. And then what from here? It's all a bit lost for black, I think, at this point. So white's just trying to make territory. The thing that I would say to them is that making points in the center here is not that valuable. You know, spending 1 or 2 moves to just make this 1 point is not ideal. So instead, he'd rather play moves like this. You know, with 2 moves here, I'm able to make a number of points here, which is different from if black gets these moves first. So you can see how that's a very big difference here, as opposed to just trying to make some points in the center like this. But okay, I mean, black doesn't even really need to block here. You can just come over here. But anyway. So yeah, it's all very rough. And here, actually, white is on the verge of being locally dead. So this doesn't make an eye. But if white just plays here, that's okay. Sometimes this can be an eye stealing Tosuji if both these stones, so we have this stone here with 1 liberty and these 2 stones with 3 liberties. So the idea is that if both of them would have 1 liberty at once, then this can be an eye stealing Tosuji. But so white can just play here and, you know, can just live. But, you know, their life and death skills aren't the sharpest in the world. And so white eventually finds it. The question is for black, you know, can we find the opportunity to do this earlier? So the issue is that now we need to surround white, and so white will get this. If we go for this now, then white will just break out here, and then it's quite difficult to, you know, if you try and cut white off over here, they're just going to connect this way, and if we go over here, then there's this connection, although I guess there's this cut. So maybe this is the idea that black will want to go after. But even so, I still think that white will have more liberties and will be able to kill black on the inside. But anyway. So yeah, you can see that the games are becoming slightly more interesting over time. The ideas are, you know, less basic, but there's still a lot that's not really amazing about these games. We're just slowly getting better over time. So I'm just advancing here until endgame because we're going to be finished soon. And then here, I say here, obviously you're better than me, so I'm going to resign here. Thanks for the game. Which is, you know, that's good that I finally learned a little bit of humility, that if your opponent beats you, it's because they know something that you don't. Not always, but sometimes you're not lucky. If you lose to your opponent that you feel like you shouldn't be losing to, but you lose anyway, then it's usually because you're making just as bad mistakes as they are. And I think that's a really difficult lesson for us to learn, because we'll often think that we should win the game, and that's not really how it works, unfortunately. So in Go, it's very easy to lose at the very last second, and that's very painful, but that's usually because that mistake is so bad that it cancels everything else out that you played. In any case, it's not actually that I played so much worse than my opponent, it's that I'm trying way, way, way too hard. And if I just calm down a bit and just read what's on the board, and this is advice I can still take for myself right now, if I can just read what's on the board, then that would cause me to play, or lead me to play moves that are far more sound. So anyway, this is my play at 13Q. I'll record another game today at 12Q, so I will see you all. I will see you all in a moment, but you will have this video posted 1 week before the next one. So anyway, thanks for taking a look at this video. If you enjoy this kind of content, like, comment, and subscribe, and keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you all in the next video.